Yeah. Okay. So we don't call it flow or the flow state because I think it confuses our athletes. I just say, I just say, we want the match to feel like a dream when we're done. And I say this, I use analogies all the time because I think they're valuable. And that's just how my mind works. So when I hit a home run on the softball field or baseball field, I can't look back and remember swinging the bat. If I remembered swinging the bat, it was probably a crappy at bat performance. All I remember is the vibration in my hands or the tension on the bat. I heard a loud noise and my crowd behind me went crazy. And I was like, oh man. And I take off running to first base. It's usually happens that way. And so I use that as an analogy because most kids, even if they haven't played baseball, they've hit some home runs in the backyard or something. And, I just say your best matches should feel like a dream. I remember my dad saying like, man, that was a great throw by you hit. I could, it was a nice transition on the edge to a gut wrench. That was a 4-pointer. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, that's right. But I didn't remember it until he brought it up to me. I had flashes of the match, but it wasn't something that I consciously could remember. So I just try to reconnect my athletes to that. Give them permission to wrestle instinctively. If you win, you win. If you don't, pick up the pieces and move on. But we want the match to be instinctive, and we want to be lost in the wrestling match. So as far as like entering that state, I say this. It just kind of happens. You don't force yourself to go into flow. It's allowed to happen. I can't force the corn to grow, but I can have fertile soil and I can have the fertilizer and I can water it. So my job is to create this environment to where things grow and then it's going to happen. And I invite flow state, or I invite this ability to get lost in the wrestling match or in the jiu-jitsu match. And by having a healthy mental climate, that's a phrase I stole from Mark Schwab, who used to be my performance coach and coached my son, tremendous guy. Healthy mental climate. So the climate in your head is kind of like the climate outside from a weather standpoint, but there's a soil climate too. And if we have a healthy soil, we're allowing great things to happen. So how do you have a healthy mental climate? Preparing for the match, having a game plan, focusing on your starting points, understanding that the game plan may not work, and that's okay. But I know that once I engage, I'll get lost in the wrestling match, and I just need to have faith that that's going to happen. And but yeah, that's kind of how we approach the flow state. We don't call it flow. I think it's confusing. I just say, again, here's our phrase: best dance in America. Score every chance you get. Whatever happens, happens. All right. We don't know what's going to happen. Just be ready for anything. Just wrestle instinctively, okay? You're just trying to score. So, and I just sent a nice voice note to my nephew yesterday. I'm like, because he's extremely talented. He doesn't really have to limit his wrestling and avoid certain positions, okay? I mean, he's extremely talented. So I'm like, if they grab your wrist, you should say to yourself, how do I get to the legs from here? If I grab his wrist, how do I get to his legs? If he underhooks you, how do I get to your legs? If I underhook you, if you collar tie me, if I collar tie you. So, ultimately, if you're trying to score every chance that you get, you get good at scoring. And ultimately, when you're always looking to score, you can't help but enter the flow state or to get lost in the wrestling match. And I like to use the phrase, whatever happens, happens, because for many reasons. One, I'm ready for anything. Two, I have a game plan or some ideas of what's going to take place, but it may not work. That's okay. It's like a football player. Tom Brady, they give him the play. He calls out the play. The ball is snapped, and like 80% of the time, the whole play falls apart. And he just has to kind of move the ball down the field instinctively, right? And they say he's got to think quickly on his feet. True, but he's really not thinking. He's behaving instinctively on his feet because he gives himself permission to understand that that's what sport is. So I think just going into some detail with your athletes about these concepts can kind of help. And understand that as long as I focus on my ABCs, which is what I need to do to win the match, and I'm in a calm state, I'm emotionally ready for the match, I force myself to have a smile on my face, I force myself to enjoy competition. Do I want to be here? Yes. Am I nervous? Yes, but that's okay. That's normal. Is there a little bit of self-doubt? Sure, but that's okay. That's normal. Am I going to miss this one day? Yes, I will miss this one day. So is it a good idea that I enjoy this while I'm here because I'm not going to be able to do this forever? Yes, I choose to enjoy this. All of these things can kind of help you to enter kind of a performance state and what you guys called flow and, kind of what we call getting lost in the wrestling match.